Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today we're going to be potting up these Forsythia cuttings that I got from Eric and Emma. Here is a look at the Forsythia cuttings. They flowered really beautifully this spring. They're just magnificent. The flowers are fading away now, so I'm going to pot them up and I'm going to put them in a clump style. The opposite color to yellow is purple, but I don't have any purple pots like this, so I'm going to put it in a blue pot. I think that'll look quite nice. So this gives you an idea of what it'll look like. And I'm hoping each year I can either take more cuttings and make quite a dense planting in this pot, or I'll get new shoots coming up from the roots and it'll just kind of multiply by itself. My goal is to get a nice covering of yellow flowers in spring. Alright, it is time to get the trees out of the pot. There's 4 little pots here, so there's one out. You can see the roots. Very nice. Number 2. Good roots. Number 3. Also good roots. And number 4. Yeah, very nice. Now, I'm going to rake out the roots. You can see how they've all circled around the bottom of the pot. I'm going to get rid of this nursery soil, replace it with bonsai soil. So here I go. I'm raking out the root system, untangling it, trying to sort it out to get nice radial roots, because someday I may lift this clump up and kind of expose the root system. So just kind of untangling the roots that are circling around the bottom of the pot. And I'll just show you the root pruning on the one here, and then I'll do the other ones off camera. They'll all be a very similar process. I don't expect any strange surprises on these cuttings. Okay, I think I'm ready to wash the roots now. All right, into the water it goes. Wow, that really came clean. Okay, back to the bench. Here is a look at the root system all washed up, and you can see the bottom of the cutting is down here and the soil level's up here, so I've got roots all coming out from that cutting everywhere. It doesn't hurt. I mean, having all these roots is fine. My surface roots look good, so as I say, when the surface roots get woody and I lift it up, they'll look really good. So do I need to prune off these lower roots? Well, not really. I will take off the bottom layer. Some of them are starting to kind of curl around here, so I'll just take off the bottom layer a bit, like that. Getting it down to the base of the cutting there, and I'll just give it a light prune on the edges, getting rid of those roots that have curled around when they hit the sides of the pot, like that. And I think that is good for the root pruning. If this were a maple or something, I would definitely take off those bottom roots. But in this case, for a Forsythia, I think this will be fine in that pot. It'll grow a huge root system and should grow quite strongly this summer. I am going to prune the top of the tree too. So you can see it's perfectly straight from here up to here. I've got a set of buds here that would turn into branches. You can even see there's a little branch forming down here. So how low do I want to go? How low do I want, a straight trunk? Well, I'm thinking on this one I would cut it off here. And I'm going to go halfway between the nodes, like that. So there is my Forsythia ready to plant. I will also plant these as cuttings in the same pot, so I'll trim off this one here this one here. This one will come off here. So I'll throw this leafy part away. And all the others ones can be planted as cuttings. I'll get the rest of all the cuttings prepared the exact same way, washing the roots, root pruning, top pruning to get more cuttings, and then we'll come back and plant them. So I'm finding some differences in the root systems. So I will show you the root pruning of each tree, because so far they're all quite different, which I didn't really expect. All right, let's have a look at the other root systems on the other 3 cuttings. I mentioned all the other root systems were a little bit different, and I'll show you them. So the first one I want to show you is this one, and you can see coming up from the roots here is a shoot which would turn into a new trunk or a branch. So that's interesting on that root system. It's also a bit shallower than the other tree. It wasn't planted quite so deeply, so all the roots are more on one plane rather than, a very deep root system. So that's one. It has a shoot coming up from the roots. The other one has a very shallow root system. You can see the callus at the bottom here, right here, and then a radial root system. So that needs pruning up. And the last one has probably the best root system. It's shallow, it's nice and radial, and there's lots of roots. You can see where a bud or something is healed over here. I left a bit of a callus. So very interesting. Each cutting is slightly different. So let's get them pruned up now. I will start with this one, and I'm going to prune off this branch here and take the tip off this one. We'll discard that leafy growth. And then for the roots, I've got a few roots sticking up. Not too many, but just a few. I'm going to start on the bottom, kind of flattening out the bottom, because this one does have a nice flat radial root system. And I've just made it even flatter now. So a little, you can see it hit the edge of the pot on this side. So I'll just kind of equalize this growth. And I think that is good. I think that's a nice radial root system. That is ready to go. So I'll put that in water. This cutting, I'm going to prune off the top growth, the flower, and that can be a cutting too. The next tree is the one that has the shoot coming up. I'm going to prune away a root here. It's a little high in the root plane. There's one root sticking up here. I'll get rid of that. Give it a peripheral trim here. And then I'll flatten out the bottom a bit more. I think that's pretty good. I think it's ready to grow. Yep. Now the height of it, it's a little tall, this one. I don't see any green shoots coming off the trunk, so I'm just going to prune back the leader here. And that's it. I'm wondering if all the growth was going into this shoot here instead of up top. That's a possibility. I'll just take the flowers off this one, prune back some of the growth on it, take the tip off, and that cutting's ready for planting, like that. So these will go in water now. And now it's time for the last one. So the last one has a good root system. I'll just prune off some of the roots sticking up. Some of the longer roots, cut them back that are curling around the edge of the pot. Flatten out the bottom a bit. Bit uneven the root system. You can see the cutting was right against the pot on this side, but that should correct itself when it gets into a new pot with a little more space. This one I can prune quite short. I've got a new shoot here. I could go up higher if I wanted. Maybe I will. I'll prune it here. Keeping this one a little taller. I'll take the flowers off this one. Okay. And I think I'll take the lower branches off this cutting, and I can plant it like that. So that one is ready for planting also. I was looking at this pot. It's got a bit of calcium buildup on it. And I was looking at the corner here and I see a hairline crack in it. And if I hold the pot, see how it doesn't ring? It has a thud to it. It doesn't ring like a bell. And that usually means there's a crack in the pot. I turned it over and I noticed from the drainage hole here, there's 3 stress cracks in it. I don't see them on the inside. Maybe there's one here, but I don't see the 3 cracks on the inside, but it's definitely a cracked pot. Now, it would probably survive at least 1 year growing the forsythias in it. So I'm going to look around to see if I have another blue pot. If not, I'll plant it in this cracked pot, and I'm sure I'll get at least a year out of it. I looked around everywhere and I did find, I think, even a nicer pot. So this is definitely a darker blue color, more of a navy blue, maybe even a hint of purple in it. It's definitely going to make the flowers look better, this color, than the brighter blue color, I think. I think the flowers will pop more. So this will be my pot. It's not cracked. I got this at one of the Toronto club's auctions. It's a used pot, but it should do fine. It's not a real high quality pot, but it'll certainly do for these forsythias. Now, if I was putting these plants outside for the winter, I wouldn't put them in clay pots because you're just asking for them to crack. But because I just noticed there's a big chip out of the pot on the inside here. So it is. Oh, and there's another chip here. Yeah, see that? So that's gotten moist over the winter, and then it's frozen and cracked off a bit. But the rest of it looks good. I think it's fine. There might be a slight crack through here. It's not on the inside. Let's see if it rings. A little bit. That one doesn't ring at all. So you can hear the difference. But this one still doesn't ring. It doesn't resonate. So I think this will do though. I think this will definitely be the better pot than this one. And I'm sure it'll get through a year or two without any problems. I've got a drainage screen cut for the new pot. So let's give this pot a clean up and get planting. I've got the pot cleaned up. I'll add the drainage screen and add a base layer of soil. I'll probably fill it about halfway. Then I'll plant the ones with root systems, fill it up the rest of the way, and then stick all the cuttings in. In goes the soil. Okay, I'm ready to plant the 4 cuttings. Here are my 4 cuttings that have rooted, and you notice I prune them at various heights. So I will put the tallest one in the center, like that, with the shoot coming off kind of towards the front, I think. Like that. Then, the next tallest one, actually, I'm not going to put it in the center. I'm going to offset it a bit, kind of creating an asymmetrical triangle. So I'll put the next tallest one back a bit. We'll kind of arrange it like a forest, even though it's still a clump style. Kind of. So this side has very few roots, so I'll put that up against the other cutting. I don't know if that'll stay in place, sort of like that. The next tallest one is this one, and I'll place this one on this side. Back a bit again. And the last one, if I can do this, will go back over here. I think something like that. This one does not go there. Something like that. I think that'll be good, and then I can place the other cuttings around here. So I'll put some soil in here just to hold them in place. So here I go. Just trying to hold on to these. Maybe I better put some soil in first. I can always arrange the angles of them a little later on if I want to fan them out or have them vertical. Now I think I'd better have a look at it from the front, make sure this is looking okay. So let's do that. I'm having a look from the front here, so you can see everything's over to the left-hand side, but I'm going to put more cuttings in around the right-hand side, so I think it'll balance it out. I think that arrangement looks fine. I could maybe twist this one a bit so the branch is coming towards the front and the back rather than towards the tree beside it. Maybe twist this one just slightly too. Now the arrangement looks a bit even right now, so I'll try and move them a little closer together. That. Okay, I think that's okay, and then I'll plant my cuttings around. So I'm going to top this up with soil, give it a water, and then I'll stick my cuttings in. Okay, I think that's a fairly good height for the soil in the pot. All right, I'm going to work the soil into the roots. That's looking good. Next, I'm going to give it a watering. All right, here I go with the water. That should be good. It's time now to plant all the other cuttings that I took off these cuttings. Cuttings of cuttings. So here I go. I'm going to place them in the soil like that, and just kind of arranging them, keeping that kind of asymmetrical profile to the planting, that asymmetrical triangular profile. My little cuttings over here. And hopefully these cuttings will root. If not, I just keep trying until they do. Eventually, you will get cuttings that root. Or you'll get new shoots coming up from the root system. So I think that's looking quite good. I am going to top dress this with a layer of sand. All right, here I go with the top layer of sand. All right, it's time to water once again. Here I go. And that should be good. At the start of the day, these Forsythia cuttings were just rooted cuttings in little plastic training pots. And today I gave them some love and attention, root pruning them, arranging them, making them something a little more artistic. And I find with cuttings and seedlings, that's half the battle, is just giving them some attention, getting them started in their bonsai journey, instead of just kind of leaving them neglected in a corner. Let's fly in now and have a look at the Forsythias. Hopefully these Forsythias will flower again next year and put on a spectacular spring show. That is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.